with the coming eviction crisis. Just a couple things that I was reading today as I was preparing. None of this will come to a surprise to anyone, but right now there's an eviction moratorium through the end of the year. But as I've been hearing, and many of you have been hearing out in the community, there's landlords continue to issue eviction notices. In one place in Alexandria that I've been working closely with some of my union brothers and sisters, Southern Towers, which has a lot of laid off airport workers, Snell Properties and Bell Partners have continued processing evictions of the unemployed tenants there and have pushed some to take out loans to cover the rent. And that's just a little anecdote of what many people are facing. I saw in the Washington Post, and this is a little outdated, it's from August 7th, and it said, in an article, it said, district courts across the state of Virginia have seen more than 6,000 eviction cases filed, and more than 500,000 tenants in Virginia have been at risk of losing their homes, according to the interfaith organization Voice. And then from the eviction lab at VCU, they said that they estimate, and again, this is about a month out of date. This is from early September. It said 169 to 262,000 households are at risk of eviction. And this, which includes 88,000 to 134,000 households with children, affecting a total population of 301,000 to 741,000 Virginians. The estimated rent shortfall statewide is 169 to 370 million. In Arlington, according to the eviction lab, the average amount owed in back rent is $7,485, and the median amount owed is $2,895. And again, this is a little bit outdated. It's from September, but as of then, there was 16% of renters that had not paid their July rent, and 28% had little or no confidence in making the August rent. I haven't seen an updated figure there. Maybe somebody on the call would know an updated figure. And as many of you know, in our work as progressives and our work to make the world better, it's not really shocking that this is happening. I mean, the pandemic is just a catalyst. It's just the event that is showing what's been going on in our county, in our state, in our country for quite a while now. That many Virginians, particularly immigrants and communities of color, have been one or two missed paychecks away from eviction before we were faced with this pandemic. And we've had decades of low wages and a lack of affordable housing in our county and our region, and this has left many of these workers who have been laid off really vulnerable to this. And and understand that we all know that a lot of this blame is with the Trump administration and federal government, that there's a lot that they should be doing that they are not doing. But part of what we wanted to do in this forum is talk about what are some things that we can do in our county and what are some things we can do in our state to help alleviate this crisis and help some of these people that are at a really critical moment in their lives. So I want to thank everybody for being on. And with that, I guess I should introduce myself. My name is Keith Willis, and I'm a labor activist for about 20 plus years. I was part of the Service Employees Union, and I'm chair of the Arlington Dems Labor Caucus. I'll hand it over to Ankit.
Thanks, Keith. Thanks for the introduction. So I'm just going to introduce all the panelists. We have a great group of panelists here, both policy makers and people who are directly affected by this ongoing crisis caused by coronavirus, and really even before then. So my name is Ankit Jain. I'm the chair of the Arlington Young Democrats Civil Rights and Liberties Caucus, and I'm an attorney at the Sierra Club. So I'm focused on housing as well as it relates to climate change. So I'm glad to be here. And so I'm going to go around and introduce all our panelists today. First, we have Delegate Alfonso Lopez. Alfonso Lopez is a member of the Virginia House of Delegates representing District 49 right here in Arlington. He has served in the House of Delegates since January 2012. Delegate Lopez has been very focused on housing during his time in the General Assembly. In 2013, he passed legislation creating the Virginia Housing Trust Fund, which provides loans and grant funding for affordable housing projects in Virginia. And just last year, this year, he passed a law prohibiting discrimination by landlords against Virginians with housing vouchers.
Link that they should use.
Hey, everybody.
Want to participate in the event because some people are.
Thanks, Delegate Lopez. We also have here Takis P. Karantonis. He's an economist and urban planner with more than 25 years of urban and regional planning experience. He's a member of the Arlington County Board. He was elected on July 7, 2020 in a special election. Takis was born in Athens, Greece, and received his master's degree in urban and regional economics with an emphasis on inequality in urban development. From 2009 to 2016, he served as executive director of the Columbia Pike Revitalization Organization. He currently is vice chair of the Alliance for Housing Solutions. So as you can tell, he's really been focused on housing for a long period of time.
I'm not anymore a member of the board of the Alliance for Housing Solutions.
Oh.
Is sort of incompatible with being on the county board, but yes.
That's fair, yeah.
That's my
Thanks for
most
that
recent
correction.
past, yeah.
Next, we have Pam Kestner. Ms. Kestner is the Chief Deputy at the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development. She started in that position in June, and previously she was the Deputy Director of Housing in the same department. Under Governor McAuliffe, she served as a special advisor on families, children, and poverty, and as the Deputy Secretary of Health and Human Resources. Under Governor McDonnell, she served as the Homeless Outcomes Coordinator, so you can tell she's also been focused on housing for a while. Next, we have Whitney Guilford. She's a Howard University graduate and a graduate student at George Mason University studying public policy. She volunteered with AmeriCorps for a year and worked part-time for a preschool after-school program in DC. She is a tenant who has been affected by the coronavirus recession, and she is interested in organizing fellow tenants in her building. Next, we have Eric Berkey, a native of the Cleveland area. Eric has been chair of the Citizens Advisory Commission on Housing since January 2020 and has been a member of the commission since January 2016. In his time with the Housing Commission, Eric has served as the commission's liaison to the county's Continuum of Care, which is a network of social service organizations facilitated by Arlington's Department of Human Services. As chair, Eric has focused on expanding the influence and breadth of the Housing Commission. By day, Eric is an attorney specializing in civil rights and employment law. Next, we have Arunzaya. She is a tenant working with the community group ACE, which is the Asian American Pacific Islander Civic Engagement Group. She is well-versed in the long process needed for rental assistance and the late fees and court fees that come with this process. We also have Mitch Chan, who is an organizer with ACE. And sorry, correct me if I'm wrong, is it ACE or ACE?
ACE is fine.
Great. And ACE is affiliated with the progressive group New Virginia Majority. Finally, rounding out the panel, we have Jane Yondom Jumps, and she is a tenant involved with ACE who has experience with how the current rental assistance process is not necessarily helpful to those who need it most in the Mongolian community, which is often Uber drivers. So we're glad to have this stellar panel here, and I'm going to kick it to Keith if you just want to introduce the first question.
Sorry, I need to unmute there. Sure. So what we wanted to know, I think we wanted to start with asking some of the elected officials, and I would include Eric and Pam in this, is what are you focused currently on as it relates to the COVID crisis and housing? What are some of the things you're doing? Delegate Lopez is on, if he would like to start. If he's there. He might be off right now. So why don't we kick to Takis if you'd like to open it up.
Sure. The number one thing that we're trying to do is to keep people in their homes. That is to make the best use of the CARES Act money that we still have, and this is and we need to spend on eviction protection and rent assistance. This is the number one thing. There is almost no board meeting. Won't pass any single board meeting without appropriating additional money from CARES Act money and own sources to support the program that provides this assistance. Of course, there are, as you know, especially CARES money, any federal money comes with a lot of strings attached. I'm particularly concerned about workers and at-risk households who have undocumented members, etc., that they are not anymore hard to reach. So my understanding is that the Department of Human Services and government services get to them. The problem is to make them qualify, to really make help work for them. Every single thing that we do, the other day was, for example, debit cards that we wanted to distribute for food assistance to this kind of households, the lowest income households. And we had to overcome, additional bureaucratic hurdles. Federal level of assistance was 100% of the federal poverty level. That there are no people left in Northern Virginia at 100% of a poverty level. Yes, there are, but there are very few, and they are really hard to find. Right. So we had to find ways to elevate that to 200%, etc. Now, the moratorium on evictions technically worked until now. We have 21 cases still before the courts ongoing this last week. But as you mentioned, Keith, what is really daunting is that people are self-evicting because of mounting debt and because they don't want to take the risk. The anecdotal evidence is quite dense. So I'm getting, as I speak with constituents, with people who are in the field, especially in the places where we have market rate affordable housing, which is along Columbia Pike, is along Buckingham, 22204 and 22203 zip codes. The number of people who give up and leave the area is significant. There is even, and I don't have the final numbers of that, there is even, so this even leaves a footprint on the kids that have enrolled, in the schools this year. So less, obviously. So that's an ongoing. On top of that, most landlords have been helpful until now, but that doesn't mean that they, that we are out of the woods with them. Others, like you mentioned, Southern Towns is not in Arlington, it's close by in Alexandria. And actually, I don't know anymore who controls this property. I believe this property has changed hands. It's not anymore in Snell's. So they haven't been helpful. And there is a constant pressure on these households. The employment situation hasn't significantly improved since the summer. We sense that there are more people going to work right now, but that only means that more people are exposed to situations that where we need a social safety net to catch them if something happens. It is still true, and this is if you ask about absolute first priority, if you are a Hispanic or Black, Brown minority in the 22204 zip code, you are 3 times more likely to get infected by with COVID and be out of the window and then have your entire family also in trouble than any average Arlingtonian. So that's something that concerns us a lot, and we try to respond to that as good as we can. The fact that we don't see a viable scenario of federal help right now, of number one, the extension of the CARES Act deadline of the 31st of December, where we have to have, spend all the money that we have. And the fact that we don't have a follow-up program is really frightening. I don't have any better ways to express that. It's really concerning.
Yeah.
Especially if we look right now. We are doing relatively well in numbers in Arlington and Alexandria and Northern Virginia in terms of how the pandemic evolves, but the rest of the state is showing already a tendency that things can get worse, and other states, they are getting significantly worse.
Yeah.
So that really doesn't let me sleep at night.
Yeah, thank you for that. Let's go to Pam. If you could let us know what you're focused on in the governor's office, would be great.
Sure, Keith, and thank you for having me here tonight. Great opportunity to share about a couple of programs that we're working on for Governor Northam. So at the Department of Housing and Community Development, our initial response to the COVID pandemic happened early in April, when we recognized that this pandemic posed a serious threat to people experiencing homelessness who did not have a home to shelter when the governor issued the stay-at-home order. Many were in crowded shelters. Many fell into high-risk categories or populations. So Governor Northam upfronted us $2 million to provide hotel and motel vouchers so that individuals who were living on the street or in cars or in encampments could have access to hotel motel rooms. And then FEMA, we were able to secure approval from FEMA. So, and now we're utilizing some of the CARES Act funds specifically through the Department of Treasury. Not long after that, when it was clear that the pandemic was going to be with us for a while, and the moratorium on evictions here in Virginia was about to come to an end, the governor reached out to the Chief Justice of the State Supreme Court and asked that the moratorium be extended to June 29th to give us an opportunity to stand up the Virginia Rent and Mortgage Relief Program, which we only had 3 weeks to stand up a statewide program. The governor allocated $50 million to initially to address the need. And we quickly at DHCD reached out to a current network of service providers that we work with through the homelessness system and developed contracts and stood up this rent and mortgage relief program. So it kicked off on June 29th. There was a slow uptake on it only because it was a very complex program. We tried to make it as user-friendly as possible, trying not to require many eligibility pieces to it. So if you're at 80% or below AMI and your rent is 150% of fair market rent, and you can self-certify that you cannot pay your rent due to a COVID-related reason, you can qualify to receive rent assistance as well as mortgage. We, with the CARES Act, we can only provide the funds as far back as April 1st, but we can provide it for, at this point in time, for as many months from April to current. Starting tomorrow, we'll be able to provide funds forward through December 31st, as long as someone's lease states that it's through December 31st. So we've allocated or obligated the $50 million. Governor Northam announced last week he's has allocated us an additional $12 million, because as you were sharing the data and the need, it's a huge need across the state, and the governor has worked closely with our congressional leadership to try to convince Congress, number one, that we need an extension to the deadline. The current funds that Virginia received through the Treasury Department, they have a deadline of December 30th. And we also need additional money. So Governor Northam's doing his best to try to get this extended.
Thank you for that. Eric, do you have some comments on some of the work you're doing?
Yeah, struggling to unmute. Yeah, so I mean, Takis really said it best. I'm really coming from more of a civilian standpoint here, you know, outside advocate. Although I will say, even though he's on the call, I want to say Takis has been just an excellent county board member these last several months for us. So we're very, very fortunate to have him on the board. He's been a tremendous advocate for many communities. So thank you, Takis. So just a couple things that, you know, as someone who's active in housing issues that I'm kind of looking at and have been pushing our county to be a little bit more proactive on. The number one thing that I've been thinking about was what Takis said, which is this self-eviction. You know, folks who, for a variety of reasons, are just choosing to leave, to self-evict, not go through a legal process. And, you know, despite the efforts of the county, we're not getting to them. And so I've just been thinking about, you know, what are other ways that we can be getting through to help folks. You know, one of the big elephants in the room, of course, is just we have a culture of fear, which has been created by the Trump administration. And, you know, we're all aware of that, I think. And, you know, hopefully things change in administration and we get some support there. But folks are very distrusting of any government, understandably. So there's a couple things that the county has been doing which are great. I would say if anybody has a few dollars and they'd like to support housing efforts, please consider donating to Arlington Thrive. It's the county's main partner for these efforts. They're a wonderful organization. I'll say that a few more times during this call. Arlington Thrive, please, even if it's $10, it does so much. They're getting county funding, but they certainly could use all the assistance necessary. They've been staffing up. They've been taking on some roles that the county usually does in order to make folks more comfortable in providing services and reaching out to them. One of the things I'll just briefly touch on, and you know, it's helpful to have my delegate, Delegate Lopez, on the call, would be, you know, more things to be thinking about from an eviction prevention standpoint, both at the county level and then statewide. So a couple things would be specifically late fees. A lot of folks are getting caught up in these late fees that can accumulate, and so it would be helpful on a state level to see some possible action on that. Late fees can basically turn out to be a tax on low-income communities. They can pile up very quickly. There's a great documentary on Netflix about Kestner properties. Now they basically use late fees to exploit low-income residents. I highly recommend folks watch that. I'd also encourage us as a state as well as locally to see if we can have more flexibility in folks to be able to redeem, you know, their rent, so that they, you know, if they're able to get emergency rental assistance, that they have more flexibility and more rights to be able to not be evicted. And then my big thing, again, statewide as well as locally, I really think we need to start thinking about either having a right to counsel program or at least significantly expanding legal services. You know, bias here, attorney, I'm sure there are several on the call. You know, lawyers aren't always the heroes, but you know, statistics show across the lab, through the eviction lab and other resources, that folks who have access to legal services, have a lawyer, are far more likely not to be evicted, to be able to negotiate, to be able to defend themselves, and to be able to have access to due process. And so if we can find ways to provide qualifying low-income folks access to legal services, the more tools we can give folks, yeah, Alfonso is saying I agree. The more tools we can give folks, the easier it's going to be for us to encourage them to not self-evict and to help them through this crisis. These were issues before COVID, but things that we should definitely be pursuing more now. I see Alfonso might want to talk, so I'll get off now.
Yeah, let's go to you, Delegate Lopez. We're just asking for an update from the elected officials and other folks on the call on sort of what the current work is that's happening out there to resolve this crisis.
Yeah, can I? What Eric fed perfectly, and I want to apologize. I wasn't here at the very beginning. I was doing this other thing. But thank you all for being here. Just to answer both of Eric's questions, there are two bills that the House of Delegates and the State and the General Assembly passed this year that speak directly to what you're talking about. Capping late fees on rent. Jeff Bourne had House Bill 1420, which capped late fees at 10% of the periodic rent or 10% of the remaining balance due, whichever is lesser. This new law will help prevent cascading late fees, allowing charges only on the amount due and set a maximum late fee percentage for the first time in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And so that is a huge step in the right direction. Another bill that got passed, tangentially related, which going over to the overall issue, is protecting tenants from evictions during emergencies. So Cia Price had House Bill 340, which delayed rental evictions or mortgage foreclosures for individuals who are not currently covered under the protections offered through the CARES Act. Under this new law, a tenant would receive a 60-day continuation of an eviction proceeding from a court if they appear in court and provide written evidence that they are not receiving payments or wages due to the state of emergency declared by the governor. And I can't say enough about what the administration has been doing, the governor's administration. Also something that Eric brought up, Governor Ralph Northam just a few weeks ago announced $4 million in funding specifically for the Legal Services Corporation of Virginia to support 20 legal aid attorneys across Virginia who are providing services to Virginia tenants facing eviction for the next 2 years. And that is a very important step. The governor has been doing amazing things with the rent and mortgage relief program and the amount of money they put into it, especially from the money from the CARES Act, also their affordable and special needs housing loans for 14 projects around the country, around the Commonwealth. And then also the thing that's closest to my heart, it was mentioned before by Ankit that in 2013, my legislation created the Virginia Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And I remember, and some of these folks on this call remember, Takis does, me when, you know, I don't want to get too partisan here, but the Republicans, my Lord, the Republicans, I would have to go hand in hand to the Republicans in the Appropriations Committee every year, begging for $7 to $9 million for every 2 years for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Now that was great, that was wonderful, but it was a drop in the bucket compared to what other states are doing. And even Arlington had more money in its Affordable Housing Trust Fund equivalent than the entire Commonwealth of Virginia. Let that sink in for a second. Let that sink in for a second. And so in just the last few years, because of what you have all done in terms of this eruption and groundswell of support for Democrats in the General Assembly, we've gone from $8 million to, as of right now, $88 million for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And I thought that I was pretty happy about the fact that we'd gotten more money just in the last session, up to $60 million. But this governor, realizing the importance of addressing the evictions crisis, realizing the importance of addressing what we have done with the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to prevent homelessness and to address housing instability across the state, up that even more to $85 million with an additional $3.3 million specifically for eviction prevention and the diversion pilot program to reduce evictions in specific communities which have significant demand, significant issues. So what's the old Chinese saying? Every crisis is an opportunity. Well, when it comes to housing, this pandemic crisis, which is horrible in terms of the the cliff that we keep having to avoid and push off every month, which I find sort of nauseating, knowing that people in the 49th district who live 3 blocks from me are out of work, haven't worked since May, and are about to lose their home because they can't pay their mortgage. When there are people 8 blocks from me who, like you said earlier, are self-evicting as opposed to availing themselves of programs that we can help them with, that my office can help them with. I'm nauseated by it. And the fact that we're in this position. And so thank you, Pamela Kestner. Thank you for everything that the administration has done to be ahead of the game on this. I will call up Clark Mercer, the chief of staff of the governor, and he'll say, oh, we've already done that. Oh, hey, Clark, I really need more money for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Don't worry, you'll be fine. Why? Well, you've got what? That's amazing. And so are we where we need to be? No. Are we California, which has 1.8 billion in their trust fund? No, but we are oceans away from where we were just 2 years ago. And after this pandemic is over, after we've gotten back to some semblance of normalcy, we need to grow the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. We need to have a deeper, stronger social safety net that makes it so no one is hurting when it comes to affordable housing, especially in places like Arlington or inside the Beltway. If you let me, I'm the whip for the House Democratic Caucus. If you let me keep talking, I'll go on for days. So
Thank you. Thanks for that. I wanted to maybe turn over to you, Ankit, and you could go through our next round of panelists, some of the folks that are affected by this crisis.
Yeah. I mean, the next question is pretty simple. We heard from some of the policymakers about what they're doing, but we want to hear from people who are affected by the current crisis. And we just want to ask, how have you been affected by the current crisis? How has your housing been affected? And, how has this crisis, made it harder for you in terms of housing? So we can start with Whitney. Do you want to go ahead and get started?
Yes. Assuming everyone can hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well, so my name's Whitney Guilford. I am a resident near Crystal City. I live in the Camden Potomac Yard. I moved in February of 2020. Obviously horrible timing. The COVID virus was kind of getting into swing. So I also worked as I'm a graduate student. So I have a part-time job working as an educator for a preschool program. It's like a Head Start kind of program. And obviously all of the schools in DC shut down in March. And those of us who were working part-time, those of us who weren't getting those nice teacher benefits, who were working 30 hours a week, and there are many reasons for that. I know it might sound like, why a lot of the times we're recruited, for these positions specifically, because we, maybe we don't have a CDA yet, but we're trying to work towards it, things like that. So we don't get anything from if you're a part-time educator, once the COVID hit, you're kind of screwed. There was nothing that your education institution offered you. So like most people, I filed for unemployment. And this is I guess this is the fun part. When you file for unemployment and you are an educator of some sort in Virginia, there's like a flag like that triggers your application to get audited. I guess because I was told that when educators, because sometimes we do like a 3-month, summer break or winter break, we are automatically like super vetted to make sure we're not getting money while we're, it's a summer break or it's a holiday, and things like that. So that has put a lot of us in a bind because we can't get our unemployment checks. And obviously, when that happens, we can't pay the rent. So I got served my first eviction notice in September. I was able to, I had about four months worth of savings. I got served the first one in September. And at the time I was aware of that CDC moratorium on evictions. So I sent that to my landlord, and they were very, they were pretty, they were like, we're gonna have to talk to our lawyers. We're gonna have to make sure that this is legit. We'll get back to you. And then they informed me that, you know, we're not gonna evict you, but, you know, it's gonna be, it was like almost an extra late fee for how long that I would be going without paying rent, because they kept asking me, when are you gonna pay? I'm like, what do you want me to do, man? Like, I have, you know, I live by myself. I have a little studio apartment. I have a dog. She's a freeloader. She doesn't pay any rent, unfortunately. But yeah, and I don't, you know, I don't have any family up here. I, like a lot of people, I've been doing the gig economy a little bit, going to walk dogs and drive some Uber Eats and stuff like that. But you know, that's so I can eat. That's not so I can pay my rent. And I'm also really afraid. So also I got served a second eviction notice like yesterday, because I tried to do some tenant organizing, try to get my fellow tenants together so that I could get a better scope of how big the issue was at my complex. And from what I understand, me getting served an eviction notice in the middle of the month is not common. So all I know is that I posted something, and a couple hours later, I had a knock on my door with an eviction notice. And I sent them the same CDC moratorium I sent them in September, but it was like they were trying to pressure me, you know, like they were trying to, you know, it was in big, scary letters, like, you don't pay this, we are going to take you to court, and it's going to be, you know, I get why people self-evict if they get notices like that, because they're actually really scary. Like, you come out of reading that notice, and I guess if you weren't super informed, you'd be like, oh wow, they're gonna, you know, I'm gonna go to jail. Like, it's terrifying when you get an eviction notice, especially these are a lot of people who like have never had an eviction notice in their entire lives, or you know, they try, so it's new for a lot of people, and we kind of don't know our rights. We don't know what we're supposed, what we can do to fight it, and it's framed in a way that makes it feel like we don't have a choice. Like, either move out, or we're gonna throw your stuff on the sidewalk. You're, you know, and I get why people self-evict, right? Because at least if you're homeless, like, or at least if you move out on your own accord, you can come up with a plan, right? You don't have to worry about somebody throwing your sofa out in the middle of the street, which is what it feels like they're gonna do. So it's a very intimidating environment. And answering question, did I apply? Hold on, I'm sorry.
I can read it for you, Whitney. It says, did you apply to the Virginia Rent and Mortgage Relief Program from Pam Kestner?
And same for the Arlington program.
So this is also something that's confusing for me, because when I go on the Arlington County website, that's where I look for, you know, Arlington programs. And so the rent relief program that I saw, it said that there were no applications weren't being accepted anymore. I'm not sure if that's, I do know that I checked this back in September, and I would need to check again. I don't, so there's, and then there was also, I'm sorry, there was a Virginia relief program that was asked about.
Yeah, which sounds like Virginia Rent and Mortgage Relief Program, which sounds like you may not know about that. So we'll have to connect you with, maybe Pam could connect you with the website or something like that, where you could go for that, or somebody could help you with that.
I'll put some links in the chat of where to access information about the rent and mortgage relief, so whoever is on the call can access the resources.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. So yeah, that's my story in a nutshell. Thank you for listening, and thank you for the resources.
Thank you.
Whitney, just a little little footnote here. There was a moment at some point where we had, bottlenecks in the incoming funding for these programs, and these have, in my opinion, clumsily triggered, some automated response that at this moment we cannot accept, applications. But this is not anymore a case. So please revisit that, and what's most important is call them. Call the number that it's posted there. I think it's the 1300 number, 703-228 1300. I can get back to you.
Okay.
The
And
program is really tailored for people like you. That's what it is.
okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I will be looking into those.
Thank you,
Thank
Whitney.
you.
I'll make sure.
Yeah, thanks, Whitney, for sharing that story. Really illustrates the problems we're facing in Arlington, and I think it's a good point that they call it self-evicting. I don't know if it's a little bit misleading, because really you're tricked into evicting often, is how I think about it. So Mitch, I think we can turn to you. Do you want to talk about kind of the issues you've faced and the issues your people you work with have been facing?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually let our tenants speak, just because they have to hop off the call, especially since some are working right now. So I'm gonna actually let Arunzaya speak for a little bit. Arunzaya, can you unmute and talk a little bit about, just exactly how difficult it has been to get that money? You got that money, but it took a long time, and there were problems,
Hi.
Arunzaya, say your name and where you're living, what building, because they kind of need to know that too.
Okay. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we
Yep.
can.
Okay. Hi, my name is Arunzaya. I'm from Mongolia. So I live in Wellington, in Arlington, Wellington apartment. And I was a student last year, and I had graduated, and I had a baby. Then I don't work, take care of my baby, and then my husband work only. So he was doing the DoorDash. So her account suddenly, during the COVID, his account suddenly closed and doesn't work.
Arunzaya, we can't hear. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
So I heard one of the lady with the baby, she told me about the rent, what's the rent help in the Arlington Human Center.
Mm-hmm.
So I called that number, and then they register me, and they say call me in 2 weeks. So I was waiting. So the lady called me after a month, I think after a month, yeah. And then we work on the documents. So I thought it's done. My documents are done, but it's been like more than a month. So I called the human service again, and then I knew the lady, my caseworker, had quit the job, and then I need a new caseworker, and they say to me, you need to wait your new caseworker call you back. And then it took me like 2 weeks. So in the meantime, I was keep receiving the letter from the Wellington, like you you got the late fee, you got the court fee. So my rent is about 1,600. It's like more than 2,000, over 2,000. So Michelle helped me. Yeah, and then my new caseworker called. But I got the check, by the way. I thank that. What else? So Wellington sent me the sheriff. The one day, two sheriff knocked the door. I was so scared. I was like, I need to go court with the police. So I took the letter and come to the Wellington office, and they said it's okay. It's just make you pay rent from my office. It's not the public police. I think they have the office police. I don't know. Yeah, so it took me like, when I apply for example, I applied for the rent, September rent, and then until I got the check, it's like more than like almost 2 months. So in that time, I was really nervous, and I check almost every day, check my account. How is it going? Yeah, it's keep increasing.
Yeah.
So yeah. Then I go to the office. Can you waive my late fee? They say no.
And
It's
not
the
only that,
policy.
they also gave you a court fee as well too, right?
Yeah, I paid that. I need to pay that because
Because it's
they
scary.
sent me
it's your home.
the sheriff.
Yeah.
I was so scared. What else? Any questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, but by the way, I got the check finally. And my new caseworker working with me now. Yeah, I think it's more improving. Yeah.
Thank you, Arjun Zaya.
We have a question from the chat here.
Oh.
From Craig Hines asking, about the police? Was it a private security firm, or was it actually? Do you know? Do you know if it was?
She said it was Wellington Police, like
Okay.
like security or something
Security.
like that.
Okay.
Yeah. For general information, Wellington was one of two larger landlords who, at the beginning, when we had this first lapse of the eviction ultimatum, they thought it's a good idea to massively evict. So massively means more than 25, 30 people at the same time. So this landlord and Park Shellington, actually, these were the two most interesting landlords there.
Well, not interesting, unfair, unjust, and
absolutely interesting.
disgusting.
Interesting as in flagged landlords that they really.
Yeah, but I was unpaid for only 1 month.
Yeah.
They can't wait for 1 month.
Yeah.
They cannot wait for 1 month.
Yeah, we had the impression that they were even preparing for that. And one of the things that we did was to first of all to talk with the sheriff's department until and to try to get people like you, Aaron Zaya, to get legal help. We actually paid for the lawyers, to do that, and we got most of these eviction cases frozen. The issue is that I'm sorry that it took so long. I don't know the particulars. I know that this wasn't a unique circumstance, especially at that time. It's now better. We could hire more people and significantly more people, caseworkers, and we are also, I believe that staff is also more used to deal with these emergency cases. I'm also, I wonder, and I wanted to ask you one thing. Did anybody at some point, staff, county staff, suggest to you to also call Arlington Thrive?
Arlington Tribe?
Thrive.
That's the rental assistance
That
program.
was
You called them. Yeah, they were the ones who provided the check.
Oh, yeah.
At the end. But they didn't, but at the beginning it was Arlington County Department of Human Services that was processing her case, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this shouldn't have taken so long. Absolutely not. It should, actually, we should be able, I don't know your particular circumstances there. Unfortunately, money from different sources, especially from federal sources, comes with a ton of red tape. I mean, it is designed not to be helpful for us. We cannot, I mean, we have to check, I mean, our staff has to check absurd things. But you know, residence and immigration status and all this stuff. So, and when it's federal money, this cannot be circumvented. Now, that takes time, unfortunately. But now it's better. It's significantly better.
Takis, definitely we're open to talking as well too, just because part of what I've been doing is working a lot with the Mongolian community. They actually have special circumstances as well. My colleagues work with the South Asian community. There are also special circumstances around that as well, especially reaching to them and getting people to apply for rent assistance.
Yes, anytime. We're here. You know where we are.
Yeah, and I'll leave my contact information in the chat box as well.
Thank you for that. And what New Virginia Majority does is amazing every day, Michelle.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and let Dr. Jargo speak as well to Jane, just because I know people are running late and they need to get to work. Arunzaya, thank you so much for speaking. Honestly, that was really brave of you.
Thank you, thank you.
I'll talk to you on the phone later, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Have a good day. Okay, Jane, are you there? Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, hello everyone, and thank you for meeting today. And I wanna say thank you to Michelle too, because Michelle is working a lot of Mongolian community, and I know like Arlington County, they have some rent assist, but which is great, but it's not like easy to get it. And my case is I was an accountant, it's a part-time job, and then I lost my job, like it's affecting to the pandemic. And then I started driving Uber, and Uber is just like, Uber is like can't cover my rent. It's just like covering my food, like some expense. And then I had some savings and I paid my rent since I lost my job, but now it's like everything's very tight and I cannot pay anymore. And then my leasing office like suggested me applying, which is I know, but if you like apply rent assistance, you have to like very low bank statement. And by the time when I trying to apply it, I have like my rent is like $1,500, and I'm living myself. I pay all cost by myself, and by the time I have like in my account, I have like $1,500. I have it, and some of my like friends like in my apartments, people said they like got rejected because they have some money in the bank account. If you have like very low money, almost zero money in your bank account, you can get it, which is very scary. And during the pandemic, you have a zero balance, and then you're just waiting a rent assistance, which is like crazy idea, and I cannot do that. And I'm just still keeping doing Uber, and this is just like covering my food, not rent. And finally I'm like trying to give up my apartment and like living as a roommate because I'm no longer afforded. I'm still like working in like Uber driver, but it's not much, you know. I can't cover my rent, like everything. It's like getting hard right now.
Thank you, Jane. And so then you have not ended up being able to apply, right? You never applied to the...
Yeah, I tried to apply, and then like I live in the Dominant Towers, which is like located in Arlington, Columbia Pike. My apartment people, they applied and they got rejected because of like they have some money in bank statement, their bank account. And by the time when I applied, I have like my rent is $1,500. I can cover by the time, but right now it's not able to. And then if I'm still applying right now, I have some money in my bank account. I think I'm gonna be rejected. That's why I didn't apply. And if I'm applied, I have to wait like months or 20 days or very long time. If I'm get like rent assistance, by the time I have a late fee and waiting time, calling, and it's like too much going on, and I can't handle it. You know, it's already hard for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. It's kind of an issue, like the income cap, I guess, is an issue.
Yeah, and like if I'm getting like rent assistance, I have to be like very zero balance or very low balance in my account. Like this is very hard for me because I want to work as much as I can. I want to fight for me, but it's like not enough.
Thank you. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
We have a couple things here in the chat. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I can actually elaborate a little bit more in terms of the work that I've done with the community, right? A lot of the things that we've seen right here, I want you to really recognize is that many of our members who are applying are getting court fees, are getting late fees. It doesn't matter that you have the legal justices, lawyers outside of the courthouses because they're still accruing this money. Why is it that large landlords such as Wellington, such as Dominion Towers, which by the way, formerly owned by Sneal, I think still owned by Sneal actually. So Sneal is terrible. They're profiting off of our tenants, which is ridiculous. Why are they making more money during COVID? They can sustain that loss, and this is absolutely not okay. I mean, and not only that, the wait is excruciatingly stressful for our community members. They're constantly calling us. They're constantly worried. They don't know where they are in the process. The process is messy as well too, right? It takes months. It's people are getting thrown about everywhere. And in our experience working with Asian community members, their names aren't even spelled right. Why is that? Right? Why is that? Why is there not cultural competence? The culturally competent people working with our members. That's absolutely not okay. So those are things that we want to flag, right? I also have an additional question for you guys as well too. I'll save it for the end, unless we're close to the end. But yeah, we want these things addressed. We want these court fees, late fees, the long process, better processing, language accessibility. Those things need to be addressed for everyone, right? That's why you're not getting people calling, right, for rent assistance. They've given up. People are exhausted. People are stressed. Uber drivers who are earning just a little bit, not really earning enough, are barely getting by, and yet they get denied anyway, so they gave up. I have so many Uber drivers who've just given up. So there's that. Finally, a little bit on the less related side, we also want to hear what the county has to do when people's leases are over, right? When their leases expire, what are they going to do? Once again, that's self-eviction process. What's going to happen? The CDC eviction moratorium does nothing. We need more, right? We need a stronger Virginia eviction moratorium, right? We need more money being put into these programs, right? This pandemic is not ending anytime soon. People are continuing to get sick. It's only going to get worse in the winter, and we need more, right, is what we're saying. and we need a better rent process going on.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Pam, the eviction moratorium is in place until April of next year, correct?
No, sir. Actually,
December 31st.
the CDC moratorium ends December 31st. The governor had originally proposed in the budget language that it be extended through April 30th, but that did not make it. And I believe I don't know if it's the Senate or the House, extends it through January 31st.
Right.
So I'm not sure which version will come out of the special session.
Right. We're going to have a briefing on that tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
And then, Ms. Chan, what would, if you're open to it, I'll put my email here in the thing, but I would love to have a conversation with you and Tram Nguyen or anyone over at New Virginia Majority to talk about legislative ideas that need to be brought to the forefront in the upcoming session. I agree with you that we will probably not be out of this until the spring at the earliest, the summer most likely, or the fall of next year. And all the attendant issues that are part of this with, lack of income and housing instability, there are things that we should be doing, that we could be doing, that we should make mandatory across the state, that I would love to have a conversation with you about what you're seeing on the ground that we should be doing at the statewide level, or at least at the bare minimum, making it an opt-in option for several counties. And I know that several counties would be open to doing something like that. What I'd love to know is, I'll give you my email, and then maybe we can set something up with your team.
Yeah, I'll bring it up to John. I'm sure you know him, and Tram as well too. Our policy team is obviously on it. But yeah, at the end of the day, we need you know our demands. We've already stated them. But yes, we're open to conversation. Yeah.
A little footnote, if you allow. Delegate, there are also other things. So first of all, to the late fees and the court and all the additional money that is piled up on people. Actually, we on the local government side have also an interest not have to pay that. Why should taxpayers be paying these things in the first place as well? So if we compensate anybody, we want to compensate for a fair rent, actually. And under these circumstances of COVID, we should actually think very hard about what a fair rent is. But this is a different discussion. I mean, we have an original interest as well to have these fees waived and including court fees, etc. This is not only the affected vendors. To what Ms. Chan said about the cultural competence, this is a very big and very important thing. I do believe that language barriers and connection barriers still exist. We've insisted that, and it took some time to get to increase the cultural competence in the Department of Human Services, and I know that we still have a long way to go. And not especially for Asian and Pacific Islanders, I can say that this hasn't been not nearly workable. So I believe that's now better, but I'm here to hear if it's not.
Right. We just want to make sure that our community members are represented, especially since Asian Americans in Virginia are a rapidly growing population. Our demographics matter, right? And you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm a super minority. I'm Greek, so imagine my name. How it's I still have the privilege to be able to speak in English, but I know people who don't. So
yeah, and just a couple things in the chat here, and just so we can get caught up here. There's let's see. Whitney was asking the average wait time for Virginia Rent and Mortgage Relief Program, because everything she's applied for takes a long time. And let's see. Obviously, there's a couple other things in here about it taking a long time. Pam commented that the Virginia Rent and Mortgage Relief Program does not require proof of citizenship, which is good to know. And many comments in here about how long it takes, about getting any kind of relief. And Miriam from ACE asked, is there food assistance? Is there a food assistance program during the pandemic? Like, for example, families can be sent EBT, food stamp cards, depending on how many children they have, et cetera, which I think is in place. If Takis, if you want to comment on that
It
real
is
quick.
in place, but it is under CARES Act rules, which are Trump administration rules, to put it, straight. That means, yes, we have the money. Yes, we appropriated the money. Yes, we are giving the cards. We fix that to the degree that we can do that. This really is targeted right now to the families that are at the absolute bottom of the income scale and at the highest stress right now. And this is why we opted for to choose as the distribution agents here, the Arlington Free Clinic and a couple of other similar agencies, because they deal with them immediately. That's for there, but there are several other food assistance opportunities around. So for now, we are good. The school, we serve the families of school kids. We serve our neediest. So that's food assistance is available. It's also, there are also food distribution points where you just show up. That's in Arlington Mill and there are 3 or 4. I mean, you can look it up in the Arlington website. Yes. So there are 3 or 4, especially around Columbia Pike. So there you can obtain food assistance without no questions asked. Some of them.
I think
now
I
this
guess,
is an ongoing program. Yeah.
Thank you for answering. I guess my only thing is that I know in New York City, like they send out EBT cards, like they send it straight to you. But in Virginia, I don't think people are able to go to the to a food assistant places when they're working like daily. So I feel like it's really inaccessible. Firstly, if people are not even applying on to rent assistance, people know that they have other bills as well. So this would, I mean, if this is something that could happen, people getting food stamps, people being able to apply for these things, like that would be great, because we all know there's more bills than just rent to pay.
I absolutely agree. And actually our initial intent with the EBT card program was to make it as no red tape at all. So to be able to finance this way. We couldn't muster the money, no strings attached money to do that. So we got caught. Because we appropriated first in good faith, and then the lawyers caught up with us. I have to, unfortunately, to tell you the truth. This is what happened. And now we found a way around. So we are running that. I'm pretty confident that the families that need it the most will receive it, and we will be expanding that. We started with $600,000. We wanted this to go for 6 months, but CARES Act ends in December, etc. I don't need to fill you with all gory details. We're working on it. I'm working on it. My colleagues are working on it. We will get that. Another thing that really concerns me, and I would like to know from those who, because Michelle said that people are working tonight. So one thing that I don't get any information about, and I would like to have that, I know that many small and medium-sized businesses have dropped health insurance, and that has been ongoing for quite a while. This may be a very big problem as we go to the winter months. So I would like to know if you have anecdotal evidence, any type, any information about that. Government does not, local government does not typically collect that kind of information, but I would like to know if you observe that in the field.
Thank you, Takis, and if anybody knows that, feel free to chime in or put it in the chat. But I wanted to let I wanted to let Pam answer the question about how long it normally takes for the Virginia Rent Relief Program to, process and get people money. So I'll just let you answer that question.
Sure, thank you. So it really depends on where the person lives. Unfortunately, the volume of households out there that are in great need means that there is a wait time. What we have done at DHCD, we're using some of the COVID relief funds we hired a call center that would work in the background, where when the grantees that are administering this program get backed up, they're stepping in to help process. It's helping, but there was such a large backlog that we're still catching up. And it really is frustrating, I know. And the other thing we did, one of the areas of backlog early in the program, we provided 2 options that the landlords could choose from. And when it was clear that the landlords were not going to participate in the program, we decided to remove those choices and make 100% of the rent covered in order to get the landlords to work with the tenants. So that loosened things up. We're averaging right now a little over $4 million every 2 weeks going out across the state. So we are reaching a lot of households. The most recent report that we have through October 7th, we've reached nearly a little over 6,200 households throughout Virginia. That's not nearly enough, we know. But it's a huge number of people and funds trying to get through a system that wasn't designed to do this, unfortunately. So what we're doing now, recognizing that the COVID money ends December 30th, we have gotten permission to use community development block grant funds through CARES Act that will extend the rent and mortgage program beyond December 30th. So we will be able to continue to provide this service well into 2021. So I noted that one of the questions in on the agenda was, what happens after the moratorium goes away? Well, our goal is to try to make pay rent, as much rent for tenants and landlords as possible by December 30th. And then if we can get the tenants at least in line to continue to get this assistance into 2021, and using the bill that Delegate Lopez mentioned earlier, I think it was House Bill 340, that if the tenant can demonstrate to the judge that they have applied and they're waiting for the rent, they can get 60 additional days. So hopefully we can take this a step at a time. Depending on the election at the federal level, maybe we'll get additional money coming in 2021. But I think everyone is accurate that this pandemic is not going away anytime soon. And, households really need additional assistance and ongoing assistance. So, we feel we have grantees that call us. They are so frustrated. They understand the plight. It's a matter of trying to process the applications, and we've removed as many eligibility requirements. We only have 3 that you have to meet in order to get the money. So I would, as this program goes on, I would very much like to hear how we can reach these communities, people of color, because it is a challenge. We're looking at reaching out to the faith community because we recognize that there's a lot of distrust of the government. And if we could find other organizations that can work with these households who are very frankly scared to come ask for government assistance, we allow a third party to apply for the tenant as long as the tenant signs off on it. So, we're here to try to figure this out with you, which is one of the reasons why we were really excited to be invited tonight. The more information we have, the better we can design this program to meet as many needs of the households as possible.
Can I just butt in here for one quick second? I appreciate what the governor has been able to do, but I do remember in the beginning of the COVID-19 crisis, it was very difficult to get any translation services, any help from the administration when we would talk about new American communities or communities of color. It was they were not thinking about the Route 1 corridor. They were not thinking about the Columbia Pike corridor. They were thinking about historic African American communities in Petersburg and things, and they were not thinking about the new face of Virginia. And so I cannot help but echo that we need increased language assistance. It has to go beyond having a service that people can call. It has to be truly reaching out to hire people who speak Bengali, who speak Urdu, who speak all these different languages. And so, and getting them on the ground and helping people. So I know you guys are doing amazing work. I just, it has been a bit frustrating throughout this process, especially in the beginning.
And do you have, sorry, go ahead, Mitch.
Sorry, I just wanted to chime in really quickly. So for a lot of us, I should say, the eviction issue is directly related to our ability to get an unemployment check anyway. It's not, I know that it looks like on paper, all the many barriers have been removed from you being able to apply and get unemployment. However, you have to literally call between 8:12 and 8:15 a.m., be on the line once the line clicks at exactly 8:15 a.m., or else you will not get anybody. I spent 3 weeks just trying to find that sweet spot where I could actually talk to a person. And there is no voicemail. There is no, we will route. You have to call exactly at this time or else it'll hang up on you. The system will literally hang up on you. And that's not unrelated to the issues we're facing with eviction, especially when we had the pandemic unemployment assistance. That was nice. However, you had to file for unemployment, for a lot of us, because of, if you were also unemployed, it was confounded with your unemployment check, they went together. So if you were still waiting on your unemployment check to process, and if you still are, like me, because I am being specially audited because I'm an educator, it really sucks. And I understand that, a lot of people are working with this, but I will also point out the bureaucratic barriers right now to getting any sort of assistance are probably the biggest issue for me and for a lot of people. And that's something that I think really needs to be whittled out and fixed immediately, because from my level, there virtually is no assistance because I can't get in contact with people who are supposed to give me assistance.
I can also echo that as well too. That's been a very big problem. Our community members cannot get in touch with anybody to get this help. These phone lines aren't working. People aren't checking their voicemails. I've got caseworkers who are telling me I'm struggling to do this. Right? I'm not against the caseworkers. The caseworkers are doing as best they can, but they're struggling. They only recently set up voicemails to connect them to their home phones, etc. So they've got to call at precise times. Early in the pandemic, people were calling the DHS and were not getting in contact.
Right.
Calls were just getting dropped, and and now caseworkers won't even get back until 2 weeks later.
Oh, no. Here's the thing. You are exactly right. In the very beginning of this pandemic, the Virginia Employment Commission was completely overwhelmed. And there was no guidance from the feds about how to implement a lot of this. And a lot of it was overly vague. And so you had significant backlogs in the VEC. And so Kevin Salcedo from my office is on this call as well. But we were, I guess for a couple months, we're doing nothing but trying to work with the Virginia Employment Commission. and just trying to get in. And this is something where there are people who are designated to reach out to the members of the General Assembly and be responsive. And even they were not calling us back. And so it's been improved significantly just, over time. But I completely feel and understand where you're coming from, Whitney, and everyone else who's had to deal with this, because it's immensely frustrating.
Yeah. It's confusing for me because from what I understand, we kind of knew about the pandemic for a few months before it, hit the U.S. So I just want to make sure that, we're, whatever legislation, and I'm a public policy student, but I'm not super familiar with Virginia's legislation. I work in DC. But whatever legislation that needs to be, whatever barriers you need to lift to help people be able to directly contact someone who can help them, a lot of these things I wouldn't have known about. That's also another thing. A lot of people don't know what assistance is available to them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I don't know, I don't want to place blame, but I also know that these are people's lives we're talking about. These are, people of color like me who we're told you're at high risk for COVID. So you really shouldn't be driving Uber anyway. You really need to be trying to protect yourself. And so that's the frustration that I hope kind of gets any ball rolling on, removing virtually any possible barrier that people have to getting assistance. Because we're not lying. I'm not lying about the fact that I don't have any income right now, I promise. But for some reason I'm being audited like I am. And a lot of educators are, because, you might be working in the summer, and summer months, we have to really look carefully to make sure that, because you're an educator, you're not getting summer pay or whatever. No. And it's crazy because we're hit the hardest. Schools have been shut down since March, and we're one of the groups that are hit the hardest, I should say. So schools have been shut down since March, and a lot of us have been utterly screwed since then, because whatever auditing process is happening there is taking forever, and we are 4 months behind on our rent, and it sucks.
Whitney, you didn't work for APS, for the Arlington Public School System, right?
No, I didn't. But I filed for unemployment in Virginia.
Yeah, one of the reasons that we go the extra mile to keep all, including temporary and cafeteria personnel, etc., employed was in the Arlington Public School Systems. Actually, the school board did that, was to exactly avoid this situation.
That's nice. I wish DC had taken your initiative.
The problem though is that we know that for way too many people that they are affected indeed. So it's,
yeah.
Okay, I will also say thank you, Whitney, actually, because the barriers that Whitney is mentioning are actually very real as well too. I've been on calls statewide as well too, and because it has been given out to many different organizations, the distribution of money has been given out to many different organizations. The barriers are very disparate, right? In Richmond, in Loudoun, in Fairfax, in Arlington, in Alexandria, we all have different barriers to hop, and none of those barriers are easy. There are many documents. There have been times where they are asking for 5 documents. There have been times they're asking for 11 documents. But people working our jobs can't really just magically produce all these documents. We're being asked to pull out unemployment checks that don't exist, unemployment benefits that don't exist, Uber payrolls that don't exist because Uber doesn't give payrolls, right? So yeah, they're not taking into the barriers that you say that are very little. The 3 barriers that you say are not there. There are actually more. There's 20.
Yep.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Whitney. And we're running up against our 90 minutes. Amazingly, I was just texting with Mike Hebinger and Ankit about how we probably need to do a part 2 of this after the election, because we feel like we didn't even begin to scratch the surface of what's happening here to folks in our state and in our county. I wanted to bring it to a close. I really want to thank our speakers, and I want to thank Michelle for bringing your folks on. It was really amazing to hear from the Mongolian community, which is a place I admit I have not heard from, is that community. So it was really, really amazing. And Whitney, I thank you for joining us and telling her story. Last night when I was on the phone talking to Whitney is when she got her second eviction notice, which was pretty wild. And I want to thank Takis and Delegate Lopez and Eric for being on, and Pam Kestner for joining us too, and providing some really helpful resources. And Mike and myself and Ankit have everybody's emails here. We're happy to connect people with, it sounds like there's maybe some further conversations that need to happen among people on this call on how we can resolve this issue. I also want to thank Mike Heminger from the outreach chair for the Arlington Dems for helping a lot and putting this together. And one person who could not be here was Robert Faria from Local 32BJ, who helped us also put this together, but he got a last minute call to go to Pittsburgh to work on the election. So that's why he wasn't able to join us tonight, but he did some work to prepare this. Ankit, do you want to add anything to close out, or Mike?
I just want to say I'm glad that we could have this conversation, and hopefully even people can see it online afterwards to see, all the problems that we have in Arlington. I know that people are trying really hard to address them, but there's still a lot of people who are suffering, and I'm glad that we're able to bring some of that to light.
Yeah, thank you, Keith. I just want to echo what you just said, and I also want to take a moment to thank all the speakers tonight for speaking up courageously. I know it takes a lot of bravery to speak in front of elected officials, but we were really able to hear the root issue of the pandemic and how it's affecting communities of color. I agree, Keith, that we definitely need to do a part 2. There's so much more to talk about, but thanks all around for everyone for coming out tonight.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you. Have a good night, and everybody, please stay safe. And
yeah. So the Whitney's contact would be appreciated so that we can see why she couldn't connect with
Okay.
our.
Whitney, before we close, do you mind throwing your email in the chat, or you can send it privately?